Is it possible to launch a successful podcast right off the bat with no pre-existing audience? Well, I think that it definitely is. It's not going to be easy, but today I'll break it down for you and show you how it's possible. I'm going to break this video up into 3 different sections: pre-record, record, and post-record. So let's start with pre-record. The first thing that I want to talk about is doing research. And this, I think, is probably the most important step of this entire video. You might think that this is kind of a boring step, but I promise you it will put you one step ahead of the competition right off the bat. And what you can do is go look at podcasts that are doing similar things to yours, that are in the same niche as yours, and see what's working well, what's not working well, and maybe identify potential gaps that you think your audience might find advantageous or entertaining or informational, that you think those other podcasts are missing that you can jump on. I recommend using Rephonic as a research tool because it's an easy way to look at a ton of podcasts using like a keyword search, and you can go through and look at what their social media looks like, where is their audience already hanging out. You can look at through their individual episodes and see what those look like, any guests that they've had on. And then you can create, a spreadsheet with all of these different podcasts so you can have that handy. It's a nice tool, and I promise you it will put you a step ahead of the competition. The second thing I want to talk about is messaging. You really want to spend some time breaking down your core message for your audience. Now, I spent another video talking about Story Brand by Donald Miller, and that really helps identify your audience, identify their problems, figure out why you are the only person that can help them and why they would be dumb not to listen to your show. So go check that out if you're curious about how to create a really strong core message for your audience. Number 3 is planning and scripting, all of this admin stuff that needs to happen beforehand. Look, content is king. We all know that. So you really want to hammer down what you're going to be talking about. If you find it valuable, then your audience is probably going to find it valuable. And be honest with yourself. If you think that it can be tweaked, then tweak it. Don't just settle for the first thing that you get done just so you can get an episode out. Really spend some time and figure out what you want to talk about and outline anything that you need. Research any guests that you might be interviewing, because also consistency is key. So you want to have all of this stuff done beforehand and have maybe a routine that you have for all of this pre-record stuff, so you can use that every single time you put an episode out and you have a schedule set. And the fourth thing I want to talk about for pre-record is to hang out with other podcasters. Talk to some creators that are in your space. See how their process went for creating their show. Where did they come from and where are they now? And that might give you a little bit of a roadmap for your podcast. Obviously, it's not going to go totally according to plan, but that's okay. It just gives you a little bit of a guideline for how you want things to go. And I promise that these relationships will pay dividends in the future. Like, whether they come on your show and give your show a boost because they already have an audience, or you offer them skills that you have that they don't. The power of networking, right? Make friends with people, creators in your space, and I promise you it will pay off. All right, next we have recording. So the recording quality, you don't want to put too much emphasis on this when you very first start. You want to get going. You don't want to make too many hurdles for yourself, but you also, you want it to be as good as you can get it at the time. So the first thing that I want to talk about with recording is your equipment and your technique. What microphone are you using for your podcast? You don't need a perfect microphone. You don't need a super high-end microphone, but you want to use the best microphone available to you. If it's a $50 mic from Amazon, great. If it's your headphones, then great. But just use the correct technique for your microphone. You want it to be close to your mouth. I tend to say about 4 to 6 inches away, depending on the microphone or what you're trying to achieve. But in general, That's a good rule of thumb, about a fist's length away from your mouth. And then, don't grab the microphone. Don't move anything around. You're not trying to jostle anything or tap the desk. You want to keep this recording as clean as possible, because that stuff is really difficult to take out in post, if not totally impossible sometimes. So just use the correct technique for your microphone and use the best microphone that is available to you. All right, the second thing I want to talk about for recording is to record separate tracks. Please record separate tracks if there are more than one person in your podcast. Now, I get it. Sometimes you only have enough budget for one microphone, and there are multiple people with that one microphone, and that's a different story. But for the most part, if you're using Zoom or, Riverside or whatever Squadcast to record your podcast over the internet, record separate tracks on those podcasts. It will make your life so much easier in post-production. So whatever you're doing, however you're recording your podcast, record separate tracks. All right, the third thing is space management. Where are you recording your podcast? Now, this might seem obvious to you, but you would be surprised. You don't want to record in places that are big open spaces with a lot of hard reflective surfaces. Somewhere like, your kitchen, or hopefully you're not recording in like your bathroom, with these hard reflective surfaces that have a lot of reverb in those rooms. It's really easy to make that audio sound bad, or I should say it's hard to make that audio sound good. You want some acoustic foam up on the wall. You can see I have a couch in the background here to help absorb some of that stuff. Maybe you need to record in your closet or your bedroom with your bed there. You want as much absorption as you can get so you don't have all of that reverb. All right, let's move on to post-recording. So the first thing I want to talk about here is to create strong micro content from your episodes. And you might have heard me talk about this before, but I will give a quick recap of what I'm talking about. You don't just want to post something, just take a clip from your podcast and post it to social media. That's not a terrible way to go, but we can be better than that. What you want to do is focus on the 3 steps of creating strong micro content. Find an interesting hook that can stand on its own, a solid idea. And then we want to expand on that idea in that idea alone. We don't want to open up any new avenues or any new loops in the audience's mind, because that can kind of create an uneasy, unfinished business kind of feeling. And we all know how short everybody's attention spans are on social media. So we want to capture that attention right away and keep it as seamlessly as possible. And then the third thing is to create a satisfying ending. You don't just want to cut somebody off right in the middle of a sentence. You want them to finish that thought that they started at the beginning here of your micro content clip. So create an interesting hook, expand on that idea, and then create a satisfying ending. All right, and the second thing I want to talk about is targeted daily engagement. Now, you might have heard me talk about this before as well, and this doesn't really have anything to do with your podcast, but what you want to do is go on social media and go find where your audience is already hanging out and just go hang out with them. Build trust with your audience. This is similar to the pre-record stage where we were hanging out with other podcasters, but you want to hang out with your audience, find out where they already are, find out what they like and dislike, maybe send some messages, reply to some comments, just hang out. If you do this every single day, you will build trust with more and more people, and they will find your show. You don't necessarily want to promote your show specifically in these instances, but this is just to get your name out there and build trust. All right, and the third thing for post-recording, and I think this is probably the most powerful section in the post-record, is to promote on other podcasts. Generally, if people listen to podcasts, they listen to a lot of podcasts, at least more than one podcast. And they're probably listening to more than one podcast about that specific subject. So If you go on other podcasts, that is a great way to promote your show because those people are already listening to a bunch of different podcasts. And if you make your show sound enticing, then that will only make it easier for them to click on. And if you're curious of how to pitch your show when you're on other podcasts, I made a video about that over here. And I think this is just the most powerful way to market your podcast is to go on other podcasts. It sounds obvious, but it can be hard for people to do sometimes. So just go on other shows and promote your show. All right, I hope this helped you out. I hope your next podcast launch is insanely successful right off the bat. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.